The kingdom's crisis and Princess Priya's strategic response represents the pivotal moment when a leader must transition from passive observation to decisive action in the face of escalating threats to their realm's stability. This concept embodies the critical decision-making process where diplomatic solutions give way to direct confrontation, but through calculated strategy rather than brute force. Princess Priya's recognition that her army of lions must address the bullying crisis demonstrates a leader's responsibility to protect their subjects when traditional conflict resolution fails. The significance of this strategic response lies in its demonstration of adaptive leadership under pressure. Rather than immediately deploying overwhelming military force, Princess Priya chose to channel the conflict into a controlled environment through the Mario Kart challenge. This approach minimizes collateral damage while still addressing the core issue of Queen Bowzo's disruptive behavior. The one-on-one race format transforms a potentially destructive war into a symbolic battle that maintains the stakes while reducing casualties. Real-world applications of this strategic thinking appear in corporate negotiations where CEOs challenge competitors through market competitions rather than destructive price wars, and in international diplomacy where sports competitions or economic challenges replace military conflicts. Historical examples include the Cold War's space race, where superpowers channeled rivalry into technological advancement rather than direct warfare, and ancient Greek city-states using Olympic Games to settle disputes without bloodshed. Strategic experts argue that controlled confrontation often produces more sustainable outcomes than overwhelming force, as it allows both parties to maintain dignity while establishing clear winners. This approach also demonstrates confidence in one's abilities, rather than reliance on superior resources alone. However, critics might argue that this strategy risks appearing weak or indecisive to enemies, potentially encouraging further aggression. Some military theorists contend that swift, decisive action prevents prolonged conflicts and ultimately saves more lives. Alternative viewpoints suggest that negotiated settlements might have been preferable to any form of competition. Princess Priya's strategic response directly influences the entire narrative by establishing her as a thoughtful leader rather than a reactionary ruler. Her decision to allow Queen Bowzo an apparent early advantage reveals sophisticated tactical planning, suggesting that true victory often requires patience and the willingness to appear vulnerable initially. This calculated risk-taking becomes the foundation for the dramatic reversal that follows, demonstrating how crisis management and strategic thinking interconnect to create opportunities for decisive resolution. This narrative concept represents a classic strategic misdirection where apparent weakness masks underlying strength, embodying the ancient military principle that allowing your opponent to believe they hold the advantage can be your greatest tactical asset. Princess Priya's deliberate positioning behind Queen Bowzo demonstrates sophisticated psychological warfare, using the Queen's confidence as a weapon against her, while maintaining the element of surprise with her unused shoey bomb advantage. The significance of this moment lies in its subversion of traditional power dynamics and conflict resolution. Rather than relying purely on her lion army's brute force, Princess Priya chooses a more elegant solution that combines strategy, timing, and calculated risk-taking. This approach transforms a potentially devastating military confrontation into a controlled competition where skill and cunning determine the outcome, potentially saving countless lives while still achieving decisive victory. Real-world applications of this strategy appear frequently in competitive sports, where athletes deliberately stay behind early leaders to conserve energy and strike at optimal moments, such as marathon runners who shadow the pace setters before unleashing their finishing kick. Business negotiations similarly employ this tactic, where companies allow competitors to reveal their strategies first, before deploying superior counteroffers or innovative solutions that render initial advantages meaningless. Military historians consistently praise leaders who demonstrate such restraint and foresight, noting that the greatest victories often come from patient positioning rather than immediate aggression. This approach aligns with Sun Tzu's philosophy of winning without fighting, where superior strategy eliminates the need for prolonged conflict. However, this concept faces criticism from those who argue that such calculated approaches can backfire if timing proves imperfect or if opponents recognize the deception. Alternative viewpoints suggest that overwhelming force applied immediately might prevent enemies from developing countermeasures, making Princess Priya's strategy unnecessarily risky, given her apparent military superiority. This pivotal moment connects directly to broader themes of leadership evolution and conflict resolution innovation. Princess Priya's choice reflects her growth from a traditional ruler, who might simply unleash her forces to a sophisticated strategist who understands that true power lies in knowing when not to use overwhelming advantages. Her approach establishes a new paradigm for resolving territorial disputes while demonstrating that creative problem-solving can achieve better outcomes than conventional warfare, potentially inspiring other leaders to seek similarly innovative solutions to their conflicts. The ultimate challenge represents the climactic confrontation where Princess Priya abandons conventional warfare in favor of a single decisive contest that will determine the fate of her kingdom and end the bullying crisis once and for all. This high-stakes Mario Kart duel transforms what could have been a devastating military campaign into a strategic game where skill, timing, and psychological warfare become the primary weapons. The concept embodies the principle that sometimes the most effective solutions come not from overwhelming force, but from reframing conflict into terms that allow for creative problem-solving. The significance of this ultimate challenge lies in its ability to condense all accumulated tensions into one pivotal moment where everything hangs in the balance. Rather than allowing her army of lions to engage in potentially destructive warfare, Princess Priya demonstrates leadership wisdom by channeling conflict into a controlled environment where the outcome affects everyone but minimizes collateral damage. This approach reflects real-world conflict resolution strategies where high-stakes negotiations or competitions can prevent larger catastrophes. Consider how international disputes are sometimes resolved through economic competitions rather than military action, such as the space race between the United States and Soviet Union, which channeled Cold War tensions into technological advancement rather than direct warfare. Similarly, sports diplomacy has historically been used to ease political tensions, like ping-pong diplomacy between the US and China in the 1970s, where athletic competition opened doors for broader diplomatic relations. Strategic experts would argue that Princess Priya's approach demonstrates superior tactical thinking by forcing Queen Bowzo into an arena where brute force becomes irrelevant and psychological manipulation takes precedence. The single shoey bomb rule creates an additional layer of strategic complexity, requiring each participant to balance immediate tactical advantages against long-term positioning. However, critics might argue that reducing serious conflicts to game-like competitions trivializes legitimate grievances and sets dangerous precedents for avoiding substantive problem-solving. Some could view this approach as merely postponing inevitable confrontation rather than addressing root causes of the conflict. This ultimate challenge fundamentally alters the entire narrative trajectory, shifting focus from military might to individual skill and strategic thinking. Princess Priya's apparent disadvantage as Queen Bowzo takes the early lead actually serves her larger strategic vision, suggesting that her true strength lies not in immediate dominance, but in her ability to manipulate circumstances and opponents according to carefully crafted long-term plans that turn apparent weakness into ultimate victory. The concept presented here represents a strategic gambit, where apparent disadvantage becomes the foundation for ultimate victory. Princess Priya's deliberate decision to allow Queen Bowzo to take a commanding lead exemplifies the ancient military principle of tactical retreat and misdirection, where initial positioning serves as bait for a larger strategic objective. This approach transforms what appears to be a losing situation into a carefully orchestrated setup for decisive action. The significance of this moment lies in its demonstration that true leadership often requires patience and the willingness to appear vulnerable while maintaining complete control of the situation. Princess Priya's confidence in allowing her opponent to believe they hold the advantage reveals sophisticated strategic thinking that goes beyond immediate gratification. This represents the culmination of her evolution from reactive conflict management to proactive strategic leadership. Real-world applications of this principle appear frequently in competitive scenarios. In business negotiations, Successful executives often allow counterparts to present their strongest positions first, gathering intelligence while appearing accommodating before deploying their decisive arguments. Similarly, in sports, many championship teams deliberately allow opponents early advantages to study their strategies and identify weaknesses before implementing their game-changing tactics. Military strategists have long endorsed this approach, with Sun Tzu's teachings emphasizing the power of appearing weak when strong. The concept aligns with modern game theory, where optimal outcomes often require initial sacrifices to achieve superior final positions. This validates Priya's counterintuitive approach as both historically proven and theoretically sound. However, this strategy carries inherent risks and potential criticism. Opponents might argue that deliberately falling behind creates unnecessary pressure and reduces margin for error. Alternative viewpoints suggest that maintaining consistent pressure throughout competition proves more reliable than gambling on dramatic reversals. Critics could question whether such tactics represent genuine strategy or dangerous overconfidence. This pivotal moment connects directly to the broader narrative of Princess Priya's transformation from conflict mediator to strategic commander. Her decision to allow Queen Bowzo's early dominance demonstrates complete confidence in her abilities, while setting up the dramatic deployment of her shoey bomb advantage. This calculated risk represents the ultimate test of her strategic acumen, where her army's fate depends entirely on her ability to execute a perfectly timed reversal that will either vindicate her leadership or expose the limitations of overly complex tactical planning.